Welcome back to Equal IT's Shining the Spotlight series, where we shine the spotlight on incredible initiatives that are driving positive change in STEM. And today, I'm extremely excited to be joined by Thiago, who is the creator of the Lovelace Series, the profiles of women in tech. Thiago, I would love if you could introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Ellie. And it's great to be here and to be able to share a little bit about the things that I'm doing and to learn from it, because that's the most important part. My name is Thiago. I'm originally from Brazil, left some time ago, lived in a few places, but I've been in the Netherlands now for almost 10 years, always working on the mathematical side of computing with distributed systems and like all of it, until I realized that the biggest problems are not tech or algorithms or math, or all of it are communication and people and all of it. And I think I own that to the DevOps movement, like the philosophical part of it, when I got to know it like 10 years ago, and how to include people at the decision, at the actions that we make. And after starting to realize more and more microaggressions that happen at work every moment, and that put me to the position of trying to make a change and trying to go for more leadership positions and like people management things. After having not so good experience with managers and leaders, I decided like I can try to get better of this, study this, and try to listen to people and to be kind. That's one important aspect to me. And that's where I am now, helping companies and startups and scale-ups on how to do effective technical leadership with a kind hat.
I really resonate a lot with those principles. And within this journey, this, of course, led you to create the Lovelace series, the profiles of women in tech. Can you share more about what this initiative is?
I still don't know completely yet. Now it's a website that I wanted to have like weekly interviews that would be able to like spotlight some untold, some inspiring stories of women in tech. So it's like weekly interviews showcasing like diverse perspectives from developers to business developers, sales, founders, researchers, women, and celebrate their achievements, their challenges, and try to foster more examples. I do think that there is a very limited number of good examples when compared to regular bearded white males, tech bros in the ecosystem. And I think that's really shameful, because the women that stay in the tech world, they are fantastic, because the bar is so much higher for women. I think you can be a mediocre tech bro dude and get your way around it, but you won't, unfortunately, be able to be a mediocre tech woman because it's such a higher standard. And you are pushed away by so many things, so many microaggressions. Oh, women communicate better, so let's put them as managers. Oh, women are this, so let's put them in there. Oh, we have to organize an event for our company this a week. Who is going to organize it and play like the secretary role? Wow, the woman on the team. So there are all these microaggressions and all of it that I wanted to put it out there and share for more women to be able to express their path, their journey through it. So there's no opinion of mine. There's nothing. There's no editing. It's the same questions to everyone, and they all just put it there, and I just showcase. That's the main goal of it.
Showcasing stories is so important because it's creating role models so folks can be what they can see, and it really does make such a difference. I truly believe that there's inspiration to take from everybody's journey, and what you're doing is you're enabling folks to get that inspiration. I know that microaggressions, seeing those happen, was one thing that really led you to want to make a change. But can you share a defining moment or another experience that really solidified your commitment to give space to these wonderful stories of women in tech?
Throughout my career, I started to be more aware about my blind spots, about my witnessing microaggressions and things related to different people. But when I worked with a lot of startups, having my own, working with it, and I led a startup team on AWS for a few years, working a lot with venture capitalists and angels and all of it. I started to be really, really preoccupied because for all the years on AWS, I think I could count in not very many hands the amount of times that I saw women in board of scale-ups and startups, of startups founded by women that were getting funded. And the recurring conversation that I had with women founders were, it's really hard for me to get VC money. Well, there was once this VC that I was talking to them. They invited me to dinner. I thought it was about my company. In the end, not that person was harassing me. All of these stories became so common and so pertinent that I decided that as soon as I left AWS, I was going to start to try to put the voices out there of this. But I didn't want to come in the negative way only. I wanted to showcase the achievements. I don't want to expand the victimism, that it is justified. It's horrible. But I wanted to put the good light on it of the success cases by also showing the shortcomings, the problems, and all of it. But not by me, not try to filter as little as possible of my opinion. So just coming up with this 10 questions and just no editing, nothing, just put it out there. Let's see how it goes.
What would you say have been some of the biggest takeaways that have really helped to shape your perspective on the industry from the interviews that you've been doing, from those 10 questions?
I think that there are two things that I expected, but it was good to see with the dozens of interviews that I've done. That is, first, there is no right way. There is no one path. These women are so diverse. And that's why I think putting women in tech as one thing and say, like, we need to hire more women in tech is so limiting. But one thing that I noticed that was crucial when, because there is a specific question that I ask about how did they get into tech, what they were incentivized, all of it. And a lot of them shared about childhood and teenage moments inspired by family, friends, and acquaintances. And that's something that I expected because that's what got me into tech. So why would be different to anyone else? Like, let's see. So there is a big, big, big relationship towards parents incentivizing people to play with it, seeing role models, especially during high school, formative years, beginning of university. And one thing that was really impressive to me is that they all had bad experiences throughout their career, but they all had something quite in common. That was in the beginning of their tech career, they had very good mentorship. And as a white male in this field, I tried to do this throughout my entire career, but I always felt reluctant to be like, do I have the correct space and knowledge and all of it to mentor and coach a woman? Because I don't know their experience, even though I can try. And I always thought it would be good to just sometimes step away and try to put women to mentor other women. But then I realized that after talking to dozens of these women, that is not necessarily true. That the allyship of white male on this is quite important for them to mentor women at every step, but always with the authority, always knowing that their intentions and their impact differs, that their view of the world is completely different, and that we don't know how it is. So we have to listen. So I do think that those were the two defining things: role models at young age and good coach and mentors at early stage of the careers were really things that it was proved to me on this small sample that I have, but still it was quite recurring.
Mentorship is so, so powerful. And honestly, no matter what your background is, you can impact somebody. I think the key here really is to not hold back, to not overthink, to not feel that you're taking up an unnecessary space, because no matter who you are, somebody can learn from your journey and again, your story. It's really important to be that support system. And I know you focus on the achievements, which I absolutely love, but in exploring some of the challenges or the adversities, have you noticed any reoccurring themes or patterns here with women in tech?
I think there is one that is recurring. I'm not sure if that's necessarily to women in tech, but I just would like to highlight first that is the work-life balance. It was a recurring problem to everyone. But why do I think it affects women more than men is because of the household chores, how women are, by our society, much more focused in being responsible for it. Being responsible for what is going to be dinner, even though you are not necessarily cooking nowadays, thank God, we're not expecting women to just be like cookers and like all of it. They still have to think about it. What are we going to order, how we're going to order, what is missing for breakfast. If you have kids, even with like usually participative male parents, women still have a bigger scope of it, of thinking about, oh, summer is coming, the kid is growing, do I have the clothes of the size of it? Those little tasks, they take a lot of mental space. And that makes it even harder for women to have work-life balance. I think that is the first one that it really came to me. And the second one, it's very, very like specific. It is the underrepresentation in teams, in leadership roles specifically, and related to the feminine side. Some even commented with me, it feels like I have to build a thick skin and leave my feminine side aside to be able to grow in it. You don't have to be feminine to be a woman. That's not what defines women. But it's really, really tricky to see that they feel they have to have this thick skin of let it go. Like, oh, some people are going to flirt with me. Some people are going to tell me this. And, oh, I shouldn't care because society's like this. I should just let it go. But should it? Like, should this thick skin be necessary? Should I have to deal with it? And this, with the lack of representation and the work-life balance, all of it, is one of the biggest problems because it pushes women away from tech, not for entering. I don't think that we have a problem in the pipeline of women entering tech, in my opinion. Like, okay, you can look at data and see that computer science groups, all of it, have more men in a lot of places, sure. But I think the biggest problem is the women that enter and drop off tech, that do not stay on it. And I think these three things are quite important aspects of it.
There's that scary statistic, and I say this so often, but women are 46% more likely to leave tech than men. So those three layers that you shared, they're so important. We still have such a societal bias on what the role of a woman should be, for example. And often we can find ourselves masking our true selves to fit into an environment that we're in. And there was a research from Stonewall, I can't remember the exact figure, but you are so much more less productive when you are masking who you really are to fit into maybe more of a masculine culture, a bro culture, shall we say. So, Thiago, how can we build these inclusive cultures that support equity for everyone? What more can companies do?
I wish I had a one quote, like to say this, or a silver bullet or anything to it. I think it is a human problem. It is a growth thing. It's about empathy, like I shared. It's about kindness. And when I say kindness, one thing to say, it's not about being kind as it's just being always nice and sugarcoating things. No, that's not it. Sometimes the kind thing to do to some people is to be candid and to tell them something that in the short term is not good, but it's going to help for them on the long term. So, and I think that empathy of putting yourself in the position of the others and thinking in the way that I always share with people on my teams and the people that I'm working with, majority of the people are doing the best with the knowledge that they have, with the context that they have. And if you have that in mind, it's almost like putting ahead of, let me help this person. Independent if they feel they need help or they don't need help or any of it, how can I be as helpful as possible? How can I be supportive? And that counts for your boss, your direct, your peer, someone that you just met, someone that you're having a meeting, the person that call you from a call center, like everything that you can do, it could be led with empathy and transparency and kindness. And I think that would help a lot. But how to exercise that, how to remember that, how to impregnate that in every relation that you have, in every interaction that you have, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know. I think we just need to keep trying.
There needs to be this relentless effort to have this awareness, to have these conversations, to be proactive. That's really important too. And to call out the behaviors that you see people do that are not okay. Of course, they may do something unintentionally, but it could have so much harm. And this is where microaggressions come into the picture. Now, for some people, it can be a really difficult space to navigate how to call out a microaggression or how to call out something that just isn't okay. So, how would you recommend that somebody tackles that? Thinking about your own experiences of how you've handled that.
I think that evolved within time. At first, I think I was blind to it. I didn't notice. That's usually what the majority of the white males are. Within time, you start to get more conscious, start to think about it. At some point, I think a lot of people feel like the white knight on a horse and want to call out people in front of everyone to show that I'm a leftist, like woke person, and I'm gonna tell everyone how is this. And I think that generates more animosity and more problems than not saying anything. So my usual take nowadays is, first, in a separate moment with the person that suffered the microaggression, I ask them how they feel about it, if they want to talk about it or anything. And if they do feel bad about it, I ask them to be like, hope so. Do you want to send a Slack message? Do you want to talk with that person? Do you want me to talk with that person? So on and so on. That was an initial take that I had. But I realized that was not enough. So I decided to switch to intervene in a way that I'm not the white knight. Something, for example, like I had a case where someone was taking the idea that the PO of our team was sharing and contributing to the meeting as it was his idea. And our PO, that was a woman, was like being a little bit left out. And instead of just calling out like, hey, you were stealing her idea on someone like that, I'm like, oh, okay, so you are just like validating that the idea that the PO had was a good idea and that we should pursue that, right? Like putting it away that is non-confrontational to the person that is doing the microaggression, because a lot of the times, I'm not saying that every time, but a lot of the times those microaggressions comes from a blind spot. They are not intentionally bad. So I think that is an important thing that I decided to do, is how to call out the microaggressions in a way that is less confrontational. And then after that happens, take the person that suffered the microaggression and do what I used to do. That is, so how did you feel about it? Do you think that I stepped out of boundaries? I shouldn't have said anything, because some people don't like that to be intervene or do anything. So after I do it once, because I can show to them how I like to do, I try to gather their feedback and then we move on from it.
It's all in the delivery. And yes, people can make a mistake, but it's if it keeps continuing after we raise that being an issue, we have a bigger problem, and there needs to be a different maybe means of dealing with that or handling that situation. From your interviews, Thiago, it's been mentorship, mentorship, mentorship. This has played such a key part in the progression for women in tech. And looking at your own experience, I know initially you maybe thought that this wasn't a space for you to mentor women in tech. You know, of course, that very much isn't the case. There's a space for everybody. But for anyone else on this journey of allyship that's holding themselves back, having those similar feelings, how can they get started?
Listen, 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 study. There are fantastic articles, papers, books about how women have been underrepresented in many aspects of the world. It's not just in tech, it's not just in this, and how you can do that. And I think and you start as gathering some knowledge and some things to be able to position yourself, because allyship is about advocating and creating space for women in tech. And that means continuously learning, continuously adapting, continuously looking into it and promoting. I think one of the most important things of a ally is to sponsor women through it.
There are some great ways to get started, and it is quite literally as simple as that. Being curious, proactive, trying to understand people's lived experiences, and having compassion, empathy, kindness at the forefront. Now, if we go back to the Lovelace series, the profiles of women in tech, for anybody who wants to share their story with you, how can they get involved with the series?
Reach out on the website itself, posting a comment or anything, adding me on LinkedIn. That's the only social media that I have. So reaching out through, and your story you might feel is not powerful. I haven't done anything. That's not the point. It's not about people that build a rocket to NASA or like all of it. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for women in tech. That's it, period. Whatever story that you have to share for it, I'm sure it's quite interesting. And just one note on it, there is one of the interviews that I have that's the one that I have the most ping pong back with the interviewees. That is, what is your biggest achievement so far? What would you like to share? And a lot of people come and say like, oh, I don't think I have anything that I would like to share or any achievement. And weirdly or not, when I ask those things to usually males, I have plenty of things to share. And it comes into that old story that women are raised in a way that they have to be self-contained and well-mannered and like all of that they cannot brag because it's hard to brag, or you don't want to see as someone that is pushy or whatever. No, do it. Like, you achieved, you've done it, amazing stuff. Just go and take your laurels for it. Just the fact that you are here, that we're working on this, that's already a freaking achievement. So you have something to share, and I have to poke around a lot on that question to get something out of it. But I'm sure you all have something.
I totally agree with that. Own the great things that you are doing. I truly appreciate what you're doing, Thiago, to showcase these journeys. It's so important. And I'm wondering, what change do you want to see in the industry?
The change that I want to see is similar to what I see in other places, maybe like doctors and all of it, where this is not even a topic of discussion anymore. That we don't need to have a woman in tech organization, that we don't need to have a woman in tech event, or that is just natural. It's just part of it. Nobody's thinking or stressing about it anymore in this way. Of course, there are things that need to be discussed that are specific to something, like you need to have a breastfeeding room in the workplaces that are not going to be attainable to everyone. But I wish and I look forward to a place where we don't need to have podcasts about women in tech or events about women in tech, where women in tech is just tech. That's the thing that I wish for. I don't think I will see that in my lifetime, unfortunately. But that's the goal that I would wish to see, that this was just not a focus anymore. And I know some people are quite upset about it. Like, if you are a founder that got some funding, some VC, or if you have a high role and you get asked, do you want to come and talk to my event because you are a woman in tech? It's quite reductive. You don't want to be there talking to people because you are a woman founder. You want to be there because you are a founder in the majority of the case. You may highlight the extra challenge that you had because you suffer on it. But the initial invitation, the why people reach out to you, it should be because you are a founder, independent of how you identify yourself. And I wish that that would be the direction that we're going.
I really hope that you and we get to see that day, but we do have a long way to go. But it's initiatives like the Lovelace Series that are really paving the way to make a change. I've absolutely loved shining the spotlight on the fantastic things that you're doing. Thank you again.
No, thank you. It was great. And I hope to get a lot of more people interested and be featured on it.
All of the links are in the description box below for you to share your story. Reach out to Thiago. His LinkedIn profile is also there. So do not be a stranger. Get in touch. We want to be inspired by the wonderful journey, which is your career.